Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Happy Labor Day. And you mean there are folks here for Labor Day? I am excited to see that there are actually I am not the only crazy person here, but you know what? The show must go on. The politics never stops. And we have got to do what we are supposed to do. And we are going to do what we are supposed to do. Joshua Gonzalez. It's not anti-woman, it pro-baby. Look, it was their choice to have sex with the expectation of rape, of course. That's what they don't want to talk about. They had their choice, and there's only one reason to have sex, but society has said we are just animals and need to fulfill our primal urges. Mr. Gonzalez, Señor Gonzalez, amigo mío, I'm taking the liberty to assume that you also speak Espanol. Are you serious? Are you really serious in believing that sex, the sole purpose of sex is procreation, and anybody who is just so ridiculously evil to indulge in that act is somehow deserving of, it is amazing. Because the only reason we want to put that supposed penalty on to somebody is that penalty does not apply to men as well, just women. I mean, that is crazy, Mr. And Joshua, we want everybody of every viewpoint here because we like to discuss whatever viewpoints everybody has. But I must say that viewpoint that you're talking about, I think it's not only puritanical. I mean, if that is your belief, I think you're entitled to that belief. I just don't think you're entitled to throw that belief on to everybody else. It's called what a lot of people on the right like to talk about, freedom. Freedom, I want my freedom. But anyhow, folks, welcome to Politics Done Right. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Michael Stevenson, welcome aboard. Peggy Lopez, welcome aboard. Joshua Gonzalez, welcome aboard. AVQ, also known as Michael Rudnan, welcome aboard. And we have quite a few unmentioned right now. Thank you guys so kindly for coming on to the show on this Labor Day. Because you know what? Kaz Zero, welcome aboard. Everybody that's here the first time, second time, third time, a million time. Before we even get started, I want to ask of thee, please share the show. That is how we are going to get throughput. That's how we get the progressive message out. That's how we share the notions of having people interact, including our conservative brothers and sisters or right-wing brothers and sisters. I love everybody. Peter Tower, welcome aboard. The DNC better use this to the fullest extent. Peter, I would like for you to put some other notes in there because you are absolutely right. The one thing that the DNC never knows how to do is bring the appropriate weapon to the appropriate fight. Because that's what it always turns out to be. So what is the show going to be about today, my brothers and sisters? Title of the show, Will Texas Anti-Woman Law Create 2020 Dem Win? My contention is that it will absolutely bring a win if it is used the way it should be used, correctly. Sleepy Joe apology, and a reporter wants to know, hey, Everybody's been calling him Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe's been all over the place. Now that he's vaccinated and likely have his booster, all that good stuff, the man is all over the place. He's in Louisiana, he is in Jersey, he's in DC, he's in New York, he's talking to the troops, he's going to visit the troops who were murdered by the Taliban. The man is everywhere. He's supposed to be in bed in a basement sleeping. So this reporter wants to know, is it time for these people to apologize? Some would even say, oh, he has dementia. It is funny. It shows you how evil they are. Because because the guy has a stuttering problem. I am not a Biden fan. Biden is a neoliberal. Biden is a neoliberal who has been governing like a fairly good progressive. And you know what? I don't care what he's done in the past. I don't care what politicians have done in the past. I care what they're doing for the populace now. That is what's important. That is what's important because there's no love fest to have with politicians. They're politicians. Okay? So I love, me gusta, me encanta eso. So folks, let us continue here, and I'm going to read some of your stuff in a minute, but I want to get into something. Beforehand, let's see what Joshua Gonzalez responded, because I like when people like Joshua Gonzalez come and visit with us. I hope they become permanent members because they really add a lot to the discussion. Replying to Bruce Pollard, if they had a choice to have sex, yes, they did have a choice to have sex. Like I said, with the exception of rape, women made their choice. There is only one natural way to get pregnant. That natural way to get pregnant can be through consenting sex or unconsenting sex. But if you believe, and this is where I like the honesty of certain people who hate abortion. Believe it or not, I think it's a either or either. Those who come out and say there can be no exceptions. If a woman is pregnant and you believe she has to carry the baby by some moral edict, you cannot make the distinction between rape, incest, or just natural sex. You can't. That is hypocritical, right? Because if you think that abortion is murder, then you have to think any conception is murder. So I am with Gonzalez. I am with you that it's either or either. I think that's what you're saying. But the thing about it is, you want everybody to believe what you believe. That a human being is a human being at conception. A human being is a human being at, my daughter is going to kill me if I don't use the right word. I'm not going to use it, but just before a fetus. So my contention is a legal human being is when that human being is born. Okay? Period. Punto y final. And would I want my daughter to have an abortion? No, because the truth of the matter is I don't really know when. There's a lot that I don't know. But would I want to stop my daughter from doing whatever she wants to do with her body? Or your daughter? Or anybody else's daughter? The answer is no. I'm a man. And even other women. Come on. And then if you want to call that murder, then shouldn't you also call anything that knowingly causes the death of knowing human beings murder? Because I tell you what, not giving health care that is already paid for to your citizens is murder. Not giving clean water because you want to sell it and make a profit is murder. And actually, that's a subject I want to talk a little bit about today before I even get into what I need to talk about. But let me continue it. Peggy Lopez says, it amazes me to hear that men can have sexual freedom and impregnate all women they can find to have sexual relationship with. Women, on the other hand, are not allowed to be sexually free. And they carry the babies. Look, you can forget that when it comes to me. Women, for me, are the dominant sex, right? They're the ones who can hold that kid, carry that kid, develop that new kid. It's sort of the way I feel about teachers, right? Teachers are worth more than engineers, worth more than all these other folks because they're the ones who move education forward. And anybody who knows me, you know how I cherish engineering as an engineer myself. But I have so much respect for those who have to carry babies. I have so much respect for those who have to move knowledge forward that I think it is essential that we make sure that their relative worth is actually provided, is actually accounted for. And if you can't do that, for too long, from the inception of this country, from before the inception of this country, we have always enslaved others in many forms. Enslaved doesn't mean chains. Enslaved means others do the work and you reap the reward. Capitalism is that device. Others do the work and you reap the reward. We can go into that a little bit later. Eric Hayes says, why do you use word murder? Please define it versus the thugs that go out and shoot, rape, and murder people. Are you trying to compare the two? They are identical. In fact, the person who kills somebody with a gun is more honest than the politician in Austin who kills them by denying them health care, which is more hypocritical. All right? Let's remember that. That person who, it is the same. Let me give a classic example. This is a perfect example. That person who kills a cow for meat is much more respected because they're given honor to the nourishment of their bodies from some other living being than that hunter who kills for sport. That hunter who kills for sport is a natural born killer. Those in Austin who can live with themselves, knowing that they can save lives, but for ideological reason causes the deaths of others, they are natural born killers. And I would look into Governor Abbott's eyes. I would look him straight into the eyes, 6 inches apart with my mask on, and say, Governor, you are a natural born killer. I would look at Greg Abbott in his eyes. I would go 2 inches from Greg Abbott and say, Greg Abbott, you are a natural born killer. So, Mr. Hayes, yes. Those murderers that you see on the street that I hate as much as I hate, and when I say hate, I'm using that word loosely, Abbott and these other criminals in Washington, in Austin, absolutely no difference. There's something known as antiseptic killing or abstracted killing, right? Capitalism is an abstractive killer. What do I mean by that? There are a lot of people that are making tons of money on copper and diamonds. We see that they're trading copper. We see that they're trading diamonds. They do no work to pick these items up. But there are others in the field who are out there murdering to get those diamonds and precious gems, etc. And the people who are buying those gems and ivory and all these things, they know what it takes to get that product. And they're still paying for it. They're subsidizing the killings. That's why we have policies like ethical coffee, ethical products from around the world. Because we don't allow, in that case, capitalism to abstract murder. Abstract is doing something that you're isolated from. In other words, abstract. Let's use beef as an example. Most people don't have the guts to go out there and kill a cow. Most people would be vegetarians if they understood how to kill a cow, how to kill a pig, how to do all these things. Most people would just like, I can't do it. And they'll be vegetarians. But meat in a grocery store, we are abstracted from all that goes on to create that. That's what I mean by abstraction. Now, am I calling a meat eater a killer? No, 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 no. Because if we look at the natural way the worlds work, tigers eat antelope, etc., etc. So it seems like in our natural creation, that was a natural thing. But when it comes to institutions that we create, Eric says, capitalism, you have made money, Egberto, so you're guilty of this, what you're calling bad. We are all guilty then of capitalism society. First of all, I've never absolved myself of any particular part I had in these structures. I have never done that. In fact, I told you all the story about me creating ComDRV, a license that cost $10,000 for the license, and these companies like Boeing and others would pay whatever the market would bear for my product. And if I told them $10,000, they would buy it for $10,000. Until I realized that that corporation would never be paying the $10,000. Ultimately, it was a lower person on the totem pole within the capitalist structure that always bears the costs, the ones that never will succeed in life. Capitalism means the people at the bottom can never, ever succeed. It is impossible because they ultimately pay for everything. They ultimately are slaves, period. Period. Accessory to murder is what Bridge MCP says. Bridge, I will take that. Yes, Bridge, I'll accept that. I think you're right. So absolutely so. So it is important. Rose Williams says, I'm vegan and don't believe in harming any living thing. However, I'm not about to require others to adhere to that rules I keep for myself. Thank you very much, Rose, because that is an entire tenet of what we should be talking about with several issues, right? That is your belief. My belief, look, I eat meat, right? I tried being a vegan several times. I failed several times. It's historical, etc., etc., etc. But if my wife were vegan and my daughter were vegan, I could do it. But when we go out and when we do, it is just difficult. It is just difficult to do. All right, let's see what else I got. Let me go back up to the list here and start reading down because it looked like you guys had a lot to say. Let's see. Eric Hayes, so why do you use the word? I explain why I use the word murder. Egberto, you reap the rewards via capitalism. Are you a bad person? Look, while I simply let me explain this. While I worked through the capitalist structure, was I a bad person? Yes. Was I knowingly bad before I understood how it broke down? I was an ignorant follower. I repeat, I was an ignorant follower. As I learned, I started to atone. And part of my atonement is what I'm doing here. That is why I gave up my business to do this, to say there is a better way. And also that's the reason I wrote the book, How to Make America Utopia. Again, I tell you what, and this is not at all profitable. ComDRV, after I play my first video, I think I've done this before, but I got to do it again for my new audience. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with the products that I had, because a lot of people say, oh, you're always talking this, you done that or whatever. I want to make sure to let folks know that this is real stuff that I'm talking about. All right, Dev says, how fast would things change if government, society, insurance stops supporting pain for ED drugs and telling men to keep in their pants? Exactly. Deb, Denny, you hit the name. If things start happening to men, oh, it's no longer valid. And I'm a man, I can tell you that. Men won't react well if you try to control them like they try to control women. All right, Eric, Paul Fleming, welcome aboard from ATL. Peggy Lopez, murder is the act of one human being killing another human being. Exactly. Para ver, welcome aboard. Pat Inns, welcome aboard. Nanette Bird Smith, welcome aboard. Bridge MCP, accessory to murder, I've used it. Let's see what else we got here. AVQ says, Eric, the love of money is the root of all evil. Capitalism creates gross wealth inequality and widespread poverty. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. It only works. And those are the things that we have to teach people, right? And in my book, How to Make America Utopia, I go through the sequence in several essays to show that capitalism depends on a lot of evils to succeed, right? Capitalism depends on racism. Why does it depend on racism? It depends on creating friction among groups so that you can make others boogie persons. In other words, you can never look at the economic system as the problem. So you have to create all these ancillary features and say, that's the problem. Those others are lazy. Those others are invading the country. Those others want to take your right away. And then you don't realize that, wait a minute, the only thing trying to take my rights away is the economic system. And I get the guardians of the gate and I create alternative issues. The person that said how the capitalists work, they have 9,000 cookies. You have one cookie and the other has none. And the guy with 9 cookies look at the one with 1 cookie and say, hey, watch out. That guy with no cookies is trying to take your cookie away. As opposed to saying, oh, why don't I share my cookies with everybody else? The wealthy has more money than they could ever spend. And yet, whenever we talk about taxes, it's a problem. Whenever we talk about taxes to support the people who they depend on to create the capital that made them wealthy, they don't want to do it. You have to understand the evilness of this system. Tom, I got your email. I haven't gotten to it yet. I didn't want to send you a half-ass email return, so I'm going to go ahead and fill it out correctly. And by the way, Tom was one of the 6 people that we had at Ask Egberto Anything. I wish more people would show. You had about 15, 20 people that signed up. 6 came. But you know what? I guess it was a holiday weekend. We're having it October 2nd again. If you go to our blog post for this show or check out the newsletter that I send out, if you don't see the newsletter that I send out, I'll put a link to my newsletter to the 2 different newsletters that we send out in a little bit. But anyway, Tom says, laissez-faire capitalism is bad. Not capitalism per se. Needed progressive taxation, government regulation, good safety net, free health care, the Nordic model of democratic socialism. I agree 100%, Tom, and this is where we have nomenclature problems, right? Because the reason I personally, myself, and this is a personal issue, different with you, different with others. I want to be able to make that dissection of what capitalism is. I look at capitalism as an abstraction of value. In other words, the fact that you create a company with stocks, and the person who has the capital to own stocks, who claim money is working for them, but really they're enslaving others to do the work and they reap their rewards, that's an issue that makes me say capitalism is bad. I like the word free enterprise. A lot of times they like to equate capitalism and free enterprise. I don't. I call it, there's capitalism, there's free enterprise. China and the United States are 2 capitalist countries working, one in a pseudo-democracy, one in a communist model. I want a free enterprise system working in a true democracy. America offers neither. China offers neither. How do we get a true democracy in America? A true democracy in America means a constitutional amendment that ensures each state don't get 2 senators. Senators should be apportioned in some other way that we can decide on, and the House needs to be apportioned without a gerrymandering possibility. And likewise, there is no electoral college. That's a true democracy. And true free enterprise mean the following. You have the ability to create your company and do whatever you want and make the profits from all your work that you provide, but you have a social construct that you follow. Examples is there are certain inalienable rights that we'll have, such that every single American will have health care paid for by all. Every single American will have access to water, access paid for by all. And there are certain things that we decide will be inalienable. You have the right to it. To control flow, where people talk about supply and demand, we'll have the intelligent people, and people are a hell of a lot more intelligent than I am, that give baselines for healthcare, baselines for water, baselines for energy, all that kind of stuff. And after you've gone past your baseline, meaning what baseline for subsistence is, for an honorable subsistence is, after that, you can apply market forces to it. In other words, if I want to have excess of what everybody else is entitled to, market forces can work there. But society, humanity dictates that we have a baseline so that the couch potato has a baseline, and that person that is really somebody that wants to go out there and attain and get whatever he wants can get. I mean, again, there are ways to do it that mitigates those who want to work very hard at the same time in having what we call human dignity. How is that put together? There's a lot of ways to do it. Do I know all the answers? Absolutely not. But America is filled with very intelligent people, unfortunately not in the political domain with power, and not in the areas and the think tanks that are really nothing more than appendages of the corporate domain. All right, let's see. Replying, murder, the killing of another person without justification or excuse, especially the crime of killing a person with malice. Right, thank you. And when you see those guys in Austin, they are killing people with malice. They know they will die. They know that. And is it with malice? Yes, the malice is from their own greed. They are doing it with malice. Absolutely. Absolutely with malice, Eric Hayes. Thank you for doing that. Peggy Lopez, a political decision that causes the deaths of an innocent person is genocide. 18 U.S. Code. Oh, I so love you, Peggy. I didn't even know that is how the genocide was actually coded in the U.S. Code. Thank you for bringing that up. I have some the smartest folks around. Let's see what else. Eric Hayes, capitalism is now the employee vehicle to retirement, other than having real estate. That is one of the most false statements I'm yet to hear. Capitalism is not. In fact, corporations used to have these things called retirements that people could have, pensions. They went from pensions when they realized that they could find an interesting way to remove themselves from any kind of obligation. 401k, you control your money, you can do all of that, yes, but you could never put away the amount of money that these corporations used to be required, or these corporations would offer when they had retirement plans, because retirement plans look like a stipend that you are going to get till you die. 401k says, whatever you can save, and if the market screws you, you're messed up. Forget it. Bye-bye. Again, you have to understand these features, and that's why you're here at Politics and Right. I hope you are, so that you can get away from the fallacies that come from these think tanks that lie to you. The right-wing think tanks lie to you. They package it in something that seems plausible, but it's a lie. They're liars. Actually, they're pretty darn good liars. All right, the wealthy say, I will take your cookie, while you are looking at the other where they have been directed to look. Exactly. That is a right way of putting it. Me packing and packing. There you go, girl. Eric, hey, why do people come to America to make it and live free? So doesn't capitalism apart? Look, people go to, wait, you know what is so funny? A lot of people come to America. I came to America from Panama. I had better opportunities in America. You know where people that have a lot of capital go? They go all over the world. Americans go all over the world. You can go to any part of the world and find a whole lot of Americans. So we could use the converse as well. We could say, why do Americans go to Jamaica? Why do Americans have colonies not colonies, but big communities in Panama? Why do Americans have big communities in Costa Rica? Why do Americans have big communities they take the money out of America and they go and live like kings and queens in the third, what they call the third world. So what you're saying, again, you have to analyze the statements that you make, my dear brother. Let's see. Breach. Texas law bans abortions after a fetal heartbeat is detected, but the doctors say that term isn't based on science. What an ultrasound detects in an embryo after 6 weeks is electrical activity from cells, not a heart. And the sound, it's made by the machine. Whoa, I didn't know that. I learn all the time from my peeps. In an embryo, 6 weeks, it's electrical from cells, not a heart. Okay. Let's see. Petition Queen, welcome aboard. This is true. The big brains are doing other things rather than jumping into the muck of our politics. This is where we need them most. Our politics live in prior epoch. Agreed. At 26 weeks is when the fetus nervous system is sufficiently developed to control bodily functions. Denny, welcome aboard. Let's see what else we got here before I go to a video. Okay, what I'm going to do, when Rose Williams says, when the company I worked for suffered a hostile takeover, half of our pension was stolen. And because of that, our funds was frozen. And after all the years my husband and I worked as engineers, we ended up with squat. Exactly. And by the way, it's legal what they did. They can turn your pension over to the government legally, who then pays you pennies on the dollar. As I think it's the United Pilots, not the United, it's either the United or the Delta or one of these pilots. They just threw up their hands for the pension plan. It's a racket. Other things that they do is that they do what Mitt Romney did, right? They go take a company and they go ahead and buy a company, capitalize that company, take all the money out of that company by having that company get a hell of a lot of loans. And after they've extracted all the money out of the company, the bank is left holding the bag with the loans. And one of the ways to pay off the loans, since the bank has first dibs, is to take away the people's pension. It's a racket that we all need to understand. Thank you for reminding me, my dear, beautiful Bridge MCP. Folks, if you are on YouTube right now, please consider becoming a member of the PDR Posse. Please click the join button. It's so important for us to get your support. So click that join button, become a part of the PDR Posse. Alternatively, to become a part of the Posse, you can also go ahead and click on go to politicsdoneright.com/support, and I'm going to put that on the screen right now. politicsdoneright.com/support. That offers you a myriad of ways, from PayPal to Patreon to YouTube to Cash Out to what is the other one called? We have a whole lot of different ways that you can really help us to keep this stuff going. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put the Patreon link, because we need about 1,000 patrons and we're only at 131. So there is a Patreon list. And here, YouTube, we are at 301. We really need to have 1,000 there as well. I gave you guys a reason why we have to have different thousands on each one of them before, and that has to do with how these people like Patreon and all these guys work. Anyhow, so please consider supporting us. Click that join button on YouTube. If you join right now and I see your name flash up, I'll go ahead and put it on the screen, because that is what we do here. We like to make sure everybody is rewarded with. And oh, that's right. You can also do a super chat. Thank you very much, Bridge MCP. You can click on that super chat and give us a super chat. We love whatever way you can actually support what we're doing. This is all we do right now. This is all I do right now, and that is videos to tell our message, blogs, articles, books. And you can go ahead and buy my books. That also helps offset all our costs. politicsdoneright.com/books. politicsdoneright.com/books. Okay, I'm going to play you the first video that I'm going to play is, are Republicans really handing this election to the Democrats? Maybe. Check this out. These two pundits are getting it right. I think the Republicans are going to regret that they're falling behind Texas. You notice they kind of keep quiet on TV about it, because they don't want too many Republican women realizing that they're really into controlling their bodies at all costs. But for their base, they love it. They love all the control, this patriarchy, and those who support the patriarchy. Well, I think these pundits have got it right. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Mark, let's talk about what we heard from Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, and Ron DeSantis, who are implying, or at least messaging to their voters. And I can't tell whether these are the voters of South Dakota, Republicans in South Dakota and Florida they're trying to appeal to, or these are two presidential candidates potentially, appealing to the Republican base who might vote for them to be the presidential candidate next time. But both of them are suggesting they want to take a close look at that Texas law and see if they can apply them in their states.
Oh, no question that they're going to enact these laws as quickly as possible. anybody running for president, any Republican governor is going to be appealing to the lowest common denominator in that Republican primary base. And here's the irony of it all. It's so hypocritical because Republican fundamental message is about limited government freedom. So in Texas, for example, they give you the freedom to carry a gun without a permit anywhere you want, the freedom not to wear a mask or get vaccinated. But can a woman have the freedom to make the choices about her own reproductive health? No way. So there's the political problem I see in the future.
Cornell, what do you think the right approach is here for those who want to support abortion rights?
Well, look, you got two campaign hacks, grizzled campaign hacks like McKenna and I on talk about politics, not policy. So the policy stuff I'm gonna leave aside. But I think the politics of this is very clear, and I think there's a way for Democrats to do what Republicans do all the time, is sort of nationalize elections around one or two big issues. They are giving us a big issue to nationalize this campaign, the midterms around choice, which again, 77% of Americans don't think Roe v. Wade should go away. This is potentially the largest mobilizing issue, especially for women voters, that we've seen in quite a while. If in fact they fear that Roe v. Wade is going away, and that's what Democrats have to push. There's a reason why Fox isn't talking about it, and Republicans don't want to talk about it, because they don't want to help drive up this sense of this fear among women voters that their right to choice is actually going to be going away. Democrats have to play politics here, and they have to sort of push forward this narrative that in fact your right to choose is going to go away unless you act.
So the question is, Democrats, are you listening? Are you ready to play the type of ball that is necessary to win so that you will be doing good by your constituency? And your constituency means not only Democrats, but the entire darn country that these people are destroying. Yeah, exactly right. So I think they're handing them the potential. Okay, for Eric and others who really question my view on capitalism, or whether I was a capitalist before, was I a guilty one as for, etc. Yeah, I was guilty. I mean, I said I was going to show you the products. These are my, let me see if I can get it camera good. These are my products, okay? ComDRV Lib, all right? ComDRV ND, ComDRV DOS, whoops, right here. ComDRV DOS, ComDRLib.net, all those companies, NASA right back to ComDRV++, to Boeing, to all of them use these products. And let me tell you what they did. I could charge whatever I want. Multitasking operating systems, login systems for oil companies, all these different products. But here's why I'm showing you this or telling you this. In those early days, I could charge as much as I wanted for this, whatever the market would bear. And I remember sitting with my wife sometimes, I would say, my God, it almost seemed like I just had this feeling of, yes, I developed all of this. I wrote the book. I developed the software. It was software nobody else was doing because of the weight control signals. But I just couldn't understand, why is it that I could make it all on this, right? And when I thought about it, I would say things like, but there were professors, there were engineers, there were other guys that developed the 8051 chip, the 8088 chip, the 8059 chip. All these are chips that I programmed these particular chips that's on planes and all these other things. So I did a lot to get this out. But the amount of information that I got elsewhere, right? At University of Texas was the first time I used the patch panel to learn how to program with numbers before assembly, C, C++, etc. And it would kind of bother me that I remember the first time, I think it was Boeing, who said, how much for an unlimited license for us to be able to put it on all our test equipment? I think at that time they were building the 777 or the 787. I don't remember. I think it was the 787. And I said, I think I said something like, 10 grand. And the person came back quickly. It was like, whoa, that's cheap. All right, good, fine. And then I'm looking in the sky, and I'm like, it really can't be that easy. I was younger then, right? It really can't be that easy, right? But it was. And in as much as in my case, I developed the software, I developed the documentation, I developed all of that. Somebody else developed all the UARTs and these other things to do it, right? In a capitalist structure, I reap those rewards because I was that point of contact. In an equitable society, I should be able to still do that, but I should be able to recirculate that money, a larger percentage of that money, back into the ethos to create all of those people who made what I did possible. And I continue to try to express that to my executive friends, to my millionaire friends, to all of those that says, you know, you have to understand that this, you know, I remember Obama took a big hit when he said, you didn't do it. And if somebody looked at me and said, ComDRV, you didn't do it, I wouldn't take it as an insult. I would say, you're right. I didn't do all of it. I did a lot of it. But there are a lot of other people's whose back I climbed on to do it. And it's when you get that humility to understand that you no longer feel a fear that, yeah, you need to pay a lot of taxes if you're making a lot of money. And when I used to make a lot of money, I paid a ton of taxes, obscene amounts of taxes. And the funny thing about it is I remember an accountant telling me, we can hide this or we can put this away. And I asked her, I looked at her and I say, why? It just didn't. This naivete came from the time I came to this country. When I learned about supply and demand in economics 101, how if you make more of a product, if a product is scarce, it costs more, and if a product is very, very much wanted, even though you can make a lot of them, you can zoom. It was a telling thing how we have been taught. People like what makes this world Greco says greed is what makes this world go around. Greed is not what makes this world go around. If greed made this world go around, all those rich stockbrokers would be dead. They wouldn't make a penny because the greedy who could actually do things would not allow them to monopolize on capital. Okay? It is important that you understand that. It is important that you understand that. When it comes, I see somebody said something about water. I was watching, while I was doing my biking today, I saw this stuff about water and the scarcity of water, right? And I'm like, there we go again. Scarcity of water. There is no scarcity of water. Oh, well, it takes, the program that I was watching on Netflix says, because we are surrounded by water, but only 5% of the water in the world is usable. True. Because, most of it is underground, and we're depleting the ones underground. We're running out of water. We're surrounded by water, but we're running out of water. No. We have the technology to make water in mass. We have technology to purify salt water, brackish water, and all these types of waters in mass. Please tell us what is stopping that water from being regenerated from the oceans, etc. Our economic systems. We have enough workers. We have enough products on the planet to create enough desalinators around the world. We have enough solar energy. We have enough wind energy. We have everything that is necessary to convert fresh salt water, brackish water, dirty water around the world many times over to give fresh water to the world. What is stopping us from doing that? Our economic system. People would say things like, it is not economically viable. What that really means is some fat cat cannot make a big profit because the people who need the water the most can't afford it. That's what they mean. As opposed to saying some entity goes in there and use the able-bodied people around there and the able-bodied natural resources like the desalination material that's needed, the windmill materials that needed to do all the things that would be needed to create desalination plants on the cheap. We don't want to do anything on the cheap. Why did we make hell about getting out of Afghanistan? Why did we try to make Biden look like a terror? Because it meant the defense industrial complex now would have a problem getting free money, just like that $10,000 I talked about with the ComDRV NT license. Understand this, people. It's all a racket. It's all a racket. Anyway, let me bring us to the other video about the Afghanistan, since I brought up Afghanistan. Many have come out against Biden, especially those that you wouldn't think would be against a president that many would consider sort of a centrist, but they attacked him. Luckily, he had the defense of quite a few progressives that came out in support of him. But anyhow, it was great seeing this particular congressman come out in support of what was actually done. Check it out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Joe Biden made the right decision to get us out of Afghanistan, number one. Number two, he is getting a ton of unfair criticism by the armchair quarterbacks who want to believe that there was some easy solution. The alternative is being presented. Gosh, if we had just stayed, we could have stayed in a peaceful situation, and had a minimal presence. None of that is true. If we had stayed, we would have been continuing the war. Everyone forgets that there was this peace deal that President Trump negotiated that ended on May 1st. And if we had announced that we were staying, we would have been back in a war. And it would have been irresponsible to put 2,500 U.S. troops in Afghanistan. They wouldn't have the protection. It would have had to have been more. So I think a lot of the analysis, and I'm with Ruben Gallego, by the way, if you've read his comments, the congressman from Arizona, about all these generals who couldn't figure out how to get the government to work in Afghanistan over the course of 20 years, now coming on shows like this and saying Biden made the wrong call, he should have stayed. Well, either those people are incredibly incompetent and couldn't accomplish what they're now saying Biden should try to accomplish, or it wasn't accomplishable. So I feel very strongly that there's a lot of unfair criticism coming down on President Biden.
Absolutely so. Look, I mean, there are all these second-day quarterbacks that are coming out to say, well, they should have waited for the winter. Well, they should have waited or held on a bit longer. Held on a bit longer for what? The reality is, the reason there were quite a few people talking about trying to hold on longer or staying longer is that they hoped something would have happened, an explosion, an attack, or something that would have then said, well, we're not leaving after all because we have to go in and take vengeance for them actually attacking Americans. And I know when that terrorist attack occurred that killed those 13 heroes that we had there helping those people in, many would have wanted us to use that as the excuse to stay. Well, it was time to end the war. And like what Barry McCaffrey said, this war is over. And I am not going to complain about how much better the exit could have happened and that Joe Biden could have done a better job. If these guys took 20 years to fail, how do you want something corrected in 6 months? Right, how do you want something? But there's another issue about them failing. They failed on purpose, okay? The idea is never to leave these zones because BlackRock and all these other corporations, these are cash cows. Remember what my brother told me, who fought in Iraq. Every time he swiped his card for food, which he could go and eat whatever he wants whenever he wanted. He had foreign food from foreign people who were giving out the food, and each time he swiped that card, those companies made tens of dollars. It ended up being billions of dollars. This is free cash. That's what it's all about. We have an economic system that is a fraud. And it has kept people sufficiently happy for a long time, but it dies on its own weight. It is unsustainable. It's mathematically unsustainable. And one of the things that we would love to do in a program like mine is to just give people the information so that the lies that are coming from the right where people believe this is some inalienable, that our economic system somehow is the best in the world and it's one that the only way that can work. When I heard today about, again, you just have to look at your eyes, and they have to teach you to be foolish. Everywhere you go, there is water. You are surrounded by water everywhere, except the deserts, of course, But in America, we have the east side flooding, the west side in parchment. We need a lot of good jobs. There is so much we can do. First of all, we want to solve the climate problem, but we can mitigate it as well. Welcome aboard Haiku 333. The only thing stranded is Eric. I won't go there. Anyhow, so folks, it's important. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Your eyes telling you the truth. We are surrounded by water. If we really wanted to have the entire world with water, with good potable water, we could. Our economic system prevents these things from occurring. And all the good things that we need in life to have a good life, it's our economic system who uses us all as antiseptic slaves that's actually preventing us from go forward. And you see, the people that have a voice, the people that you see on TV, the people that you see, the people that run the entire economy, and the guards of the gates. I call it guards of the gates, the people who have access to our airwaves, the people who have access to all these other things. They're the ones who form your minds, right? And they form your minds in several different ways purposefully, because they must create angst between people so that we don't see is that we share a lot in common. That's what they want to make sure of. Because if we are fighting each other, and I repeat this over and over again, we cannot fight what the problem really is. I listened to an analysis by a respected intelligence expert who went over in detail the different options Biden had. Each one was worse than the other. He explained how Biden had to thread the needle and take the option with the best chance of least death and destruction. I agree. And and that's why it's important for us to get away from those people that are just talking crap, and try to get others to listen. Petition Queen said, "We are far too busy with endless war than to bother figuring out how and spending the funds to ensure cleanup and production of potable water for the billions without it." Yeah, but we can change that. We can actually change that. But people think it isn't changeable. We're taught to believe ocean water takes a lot of energy to purify it. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. Suppose each along your coastlines you had these big generators to pump through the reverse osmosis to desalinate the water with wind power. Oh yeah, so one wind. Calculate what one wind tower, how much water one wind tower can. There's a lot of different options. Many different options for water. And I'm just using this for water. I can use this for energy. I can use this for food. A lot of different things. But our economic system wants to price everything. And it is like the vaccine. The most efficient thing to do with our vaccines is that we create humongous factories all over the world. And create a lot of Pfizer and Moderna and all the other vaccines right away. Billions around the world. Just like we can create milk for everybody today that needs milk today. We could create vaccines for everybody who needs it today. Vaccinate everybody, the end of the pandemic. But that's not how capitalism works. We have to have the balance. Product that we decide to amortize. How much is it going to cost? And we rather see sick people die than to say, for this particular pandemic to keep most people alive, we have to say, forget it about patents, forget it. Well, I wrote in my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, How Dangerous Patents Are. You should check it out, please, my brothers and sisters. Wind-powered device can produce 11 gallons per day of clean drinking water, and I bet that's a very small one. Okay, so folks, it's so important for us to be educated. Those of you that are on YouTube, please consider joining our posse, the PDR posse. Click on that join button. Become a part of our PDR posse. You can also support this program. We go into a whole lot of stuff. We give you a lot of material. We don't only do the show. If you go to egbertowillies.com, you can see that we blog a lot, 3 to 5 blogs a day. We do a lot of videos at youtube.com/egbertowillies. We also have facebook.com/politics done right. We have a lot to offer, not only the show, but we continue to do this day in and day out. Please share all our stuff, not only our programs, but please share our blogs, etc., etc. Again, you can support us at politicsdoneright.com/support. That shows you all the different forms that you can provide, the kind of support that would really get us through. And you can shop at our store either right there on YouTube, at the rack that you see, our T-shirts, all of that, or go to politicsdoneright.com/store. And more, and I'd love for you guys to get my book, specifically As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, as well as It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, as well as How to Make America Utopia, Take the Economy Away from Those Who Rigged It. Because these books really have some important information in it, and I'd love for you to get them. They not only feed the mind, but they also help to feed the program. So please consider supporting us in however fashion that you can. I got to get out of here. Let me see if there's anybody I didn't salute. Para ver. I'm looking to see if I think I got Deb Denny. E2247, welcome aboard. Rose William, I think I saluted you. Petition Queen, I think I got to you as well. Anyway, folks, please remember to share the product. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.